Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Countdown begins for announcement of India's general election 2024 results. Preparations are in full swing for the counting of votes on June 4th. Exit polls predict big win for the ruling BJP-led National Democratic Alliance, also expected to gain more seats in southern states of India. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says no Gaza ceasefire until Israel's conflict aims are achieved, raising questions over Biden peace proposal. Mexicans will vote to pick their next president in a historic race that could see a woman take the top job for the first time. And Real Madrid clinch a record extending 15th Champions League title as Dani Carvajal and Vinicius Jr. strike late in a 2-0 win over Borussia Dortmund at Wembley Stadium. First up, let's get to the latest on the world's largest elections in India. And the voting for General Election 2024 concluded on June 1st, bringing an end to the last event of democracy. Voting for 543 constituency seats was conducted across 7-phase elections over the past 50 days. Election Commission of India all geared up for the result day now scheduled for June 4th. All steps have been taken to ensure a transparent and secure counting process. Counting would kick off at 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time on June 4th. And after a marathon general election 2024 spread over 6 weeks, the second longest general election since 1951-52, it's time for the exit polls. A big win for the ruling BJP-led NDA has been predicted by 6 exit polls. Republic Bharat P Mark 359, India News D Dynamics 371, Republic Bharat Matrace 353, 368. While Dainik Bhaskar shows 281 to 350 seats for the NDA, and News Nation 342 to 378, and Jan Ki Baat 362 to 392 seats for the NDA. On the other hand, the opposition Indie bloc is predicted to wait for another 5 years. As per Republic Bharat P Mark exit poll, 154 seats will go to the India Alliance, Republic Bharat Matrace 118 to 133, Jan Ki Baat 141 to 161, India News D Dynamics, it shows 125 seats for the India Alliance, News Nation 153 to 169 seats for the India Alliance, and Dainik Bhaskar shows 141 to 201 seats for the Indie bloc. And the counting of votes for the assembly elections in Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim began. The initial trends are expected to come out shortly. Voting was held for 50 seats in Arunachal Pradesh and 32 seats in Sikkim on April 19. Earlier, the counting of votes in these two states was to be held on June 4th. The dates were later revised because the term of their legislative assemblies ends on June 2nd. And New Delhi is to get respite as the weather department has predicted light intensity rain or drizzle. A cloudy day and gusty wind in the evening brought some respite on Saturday as well, though the prevailing heat wave conditions are likely to abate gradually over the next 2 days and the maximum temperature may settle below 45 degrees Celsius. The heat wave conditions in the city are expected to reduce in the coming days. India's weather department also issued an alert for heavy rainfall at isolated places over north and south coastal Andhra Pradesh, Rayalaseema and Yanam in southern India for 5 days. And the death toll in floods in Assam increased to 15 after 3 more persons lost their lives in the calamity, as the number of affected population went up to over 6 lakh. 3 major rivers, Kopili, Parak and Kushiara, were flowing over the danger level. Among the other severely hit districts are Hojai and Chachar. More than 41,000 displaced people have taken shelter in 187 relief camps set up in various districts. NDRF, SDRF, local administration and people were engaged in carrying out rescue and relief operations. Road and rail communication in several parts of the state remained disrupted following incessant rain in the aftermath of cyclone Remal. Now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Police have formed over 12 teams to probe multiple aspects of the Pune Porsche accident while allegedly involved a minor driver. The accident killed 2 people. Police have registered 3 separate cases. The police have so far arrested the minor boy's father, grandfather and mother after confirmation that his blood samples were tampered. And 7 people, including 5 children, were killed after a boat carrying 11 persons capsized in a river in Madhya Pradesh on Saturday. President expressed grief over the loss of lives. Now, offline registrations for Char Dham, a Hindu pilgrimage circuit in North Indian state of Uttarakhand, began on Friday. Crowd of devotees gathered in registration offices in Haridwar as they prepare for the pilgrimage, which includes 4 sacred sites. All right, time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. South Africa's African National Congress Party facing coalition election commission to announce full results today. And China lands uncrewed spacecraft on far side of the moon. An ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 begins in America's opening match between USA and Canada underway.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
The marriage between tech and tradition is what farmers need across the globe. Tech shows us ways to deal with new challenges in a world, while traditional knowledge and varieties show us how to withstand these challenges.
Some people in society look negatively at a woman if she steps outside of her home.
Do you know 700 different crop problems on 30 different crops? Diagnostic, that's tough for a human to do.
Big food manufacturers are getting like the biggest share. Farmers and farm workers, which are like in the bottom of this value chain.
When a volcanic eruption injects ash, dust and gases into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere, they form sulfate aerosols, which the Earth's rotation helps spread around the globe.
After a grueling campaign, after exhausting polling spanning 7 phases, the stage is set for the counting day, the grand finale of the largest electoral exercise ever. DD India is all decked up and ready, counting of votes for India's general elections. Accurate and fast results, in-depth analysis with experts and reporters everywhere. Only on DD India, 4th June, 6 AM onwards.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Gaza conflict mediators on Saturday urged Israel and Hamas to finalize a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Mediators from Qatar, Egypt and the United States called on both Hamas and Israel to conclude an agreement that embodies the principles outlined by the US President. The three countries in a joint statement said that these principles bring together the demands of all parties in a deal that serves multiple interests and would bring immediate relief to people in Gaza and to the hostages and their families. The statement further read, "This agreement provides a roadmap for a permanent ceasefire and ending the crisis." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday reiterated that the conditions to end the conflict with Hamas have not changed. In a post on social media site X, Israeli PM's office said, and I quote, "Israel's conditions for ending the war have not changed. The destruction of Hamas military and governing capabilities, the freeing of all hostages, and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. Under the proposal, Israel will continue to insist these conditions are met before a permanent ceasefire is put in place. The notion that Israel will agree to a permanent ceasefire before these conditions are fulfilled is a non-starter," unquote. Now, two members of Israeli coalition government has threatened to withdraw if PM Netanyahu went ahead with a deal that ended the war without destroying Hamas. Israel's far-right ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich have told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu they will leave his coalition and topple the government if he accepts US President's ceasefire proposal. Ben-Gvir, in a post on social media site X, termed the deal as a promiscuous deal, which is a victory for terrorism and a security danger to the state of Israel. He added, agreeing to such a deal is not the absolute victory, but the absolute defeat. He threatened if the Prime Minister implements the promiscuous deal, his Otzma Yehudit party will dissolve the government. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich also demanded on Saturday that the Gaza offensive be pursued until Hamas is destroyed and all hostages held by Hamas terrorists are rescued, saying he would not stay in government otherwise. Thousands of Israelis have again taken to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday, putting pressure on the government and Prime Minister Netanyahu to strike a deal with Hamas that will see the release of Israeli captives held in Gaza. A large banner was carried by some members of the crowd, pleading with US President Joe Biden to save the captives by exerting pressure on Netanyahu to accept a ceasefire deal. Among those in the rally was Eviofa, who has been on hunger strike for 28 days. These protests have been occurring every weekend for months, with demonstrators also calling for early elections. Now, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin refocused attention on China's threat in the Asia-Pacific on Saturday, seeking to alleviate concerns that conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza have distracted from America's security commitments in the region. Just hours after Austin spoke at the annual Shangri-La Dialogue, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Singapore. My colleague Jessica Taneja gets us this detailed report.
The Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore wasn't a place for small talk this year. The annual defense summit, known for its frank discussions, was gripped by a more urgent reality. Distant conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza threaten to overshadow the ever-present challenge in Asia, that is China's growing power. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, a veteran of countless battles, arrived with a clear mission: reassure his increasingly anxious allies. Concerns about America's waning focus on the Indo-Pacific, fueled by distant wars, were palpable. He highlighted the United States' commitment with $8 billion allocated for countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific as part of a recent supplemental funding bill. Austin countered decisively, reminding everyone of the real threat: China's expanding military and assertive actions in the South China Sea and around Taiwan.
And America will continue to play a vital role in the Indo-Pacific. Together with our friends across the region that we share. In the United States, across the United States government, across our political landscape, you'll find a strong and bipartisan commitment to the Indo-Pacific. Now, critics and propagandists will still oppose the principles that drive convergence. They will continue to reject the rule of law, and they will try to impose their will through coercion and aggression.
Meanwhile, a different kind of conversation unfolded on the sidelines between Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart, Dong Yun. The US condemned China's coercive behavior while Dong bristled at the thinly veiled accusations. Yet, amidst the animosity, a flicker of pragmatism emerged. Recognizing the potential for a single misstep to ignite a wider conflict, they agreed to reopen military communication channels, a lifeline thrown across the churning sea of mistrust. Across the room, Japan and China locked horns over their own set of grievances. Japanese Defense Minister Kihara Minoru, his voice laced with concern, highlighted China's increasingly aggressive maneuvers near disputed Senkaku Island. The air crackled with unspoken threats, a stark reminder of historical wounds. At the same time, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin affirmed that India-US relations are rooted in shared visions and value and will continue to build a robust alliance.
You know, several years ago, we set out with a notion to gain approval for India to build jet engines for fighter aircraft in India. I served on the board of a company that makes jet engines for fighter aircraft, and I know how difficult this was going to be. And we were hopeful but very skeptical that we could get this across the finish line. We did it. That's happening. As I said in my speech, we're co-producing armored vehicles with India. So the anchors of our progress are sunk pretty deep throughout the region.
Despite the palpable tension, the power dynamics of Asia played out in clear view. The United States, determined to maintain its hegemony, faced a rising China, eager to challenge the status quo. Yet, beneath the surface, a grudging recognition simmered. A high-stakes competition with the ever-present threat of escalation looming. The question remained, could this delicate balance be maintained? Or would a misstep send Asia into a new era of animosity? Only time would tell. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
And Mexicans head to the polls on Sunday in a historic presidential election in which the two main candidates are women, ushering in a new political era for Latin America's second largest economy. Mexico's next president will inherit a country with lagging economic growth and an elevated rate of violent crime, especially related to drug trafficking at the hands of the country's powerful cartels. Mexico is also in the midst of an unprecedented water crisis and also ongoing tensions with the US with a decade-old water-sharing treaty. And this is also going to be the bloodiest in North American country's history with the assassination of 37 political candidates. In many cities, police or navy were deployed to accompany the making and distribution of polling packages. Security details also guarded some polling stations. Almost 100 million Mexicans are eligible to vote. The polls open at 1400 GMT. Mexico only has one round of voting. Presidents can only serve one 6-year term. Sunday's winner will take office on October 1st for the period 2024 to 2030. Analysts point to Mexico's mix of powerful drug cartels and often corrupt local governments as contributing to the dangers faced by the candidates.
From we have been here, the main concern I have heard was the violence. Violence, intimidation, and of course you heard about the killing of approximately 35, 36 candidates at various levels.
Now, South Africa's Election Commission will announce the final results of the country's general election on Sunday. The ruling African National Congress Party is expected to form a coalition government after the party lost its 30-year majority. As of Saturday, the party had received 40.19% of votes according to the results from 99.87% of polling stations. A coalition government marks an unprecedented prospect for the ruling ANC, which ends 3 decades of its dominance since it freed the country from apartheid. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele took office on Saturday for a second term. He pledged to cure the illnesses of Central American country by prescribing his medicine to fix the economy, following his successful treatment to cure the cancer of the gangs during his first 5 years in office. The Central American leader said that his prescription against the gangs is working. In his first term, he transformed security in the country of 6.3 million people that was once one of the world's most dangerous. Saturday's swearing-in ceremony took place amid security concerns after police said they had thwarted a bomb threat. China landed an uncrewed spacecraft on the far side of the moon on Sunday, a mission which aims to retrieve rocks and soil from the lunar surface. The landing elevates China's space power status in a global rush to the moon, where countries including the United States are hoping to exploit lunar minerals to sustain long-term astronaut missions and moon bases. The Chang'e 6 mission is the first human sampling and return mission from the far side of the moon. It involves many engineering innovations, high risk and great difficulty. The successful mission is China's second on the far side of the moon, a region no country has landed on before. The back of the moon perpetually faces away from the Earth, making communications challenging. Now, Real Madrid were crowned kings of Europe for a record extending 15th time with a 2-0 victory over Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final on Saturday. Defender Carvajal headed in from Toni Kroos's corner on 74 minutes before Vinicius Jr. fired home, extending Madrid's record as the most successful club in the competition's history. Going as huge favourites into the game, the Spanish side were outplayed for long periods but broke Dortmund's resistance with late goals. It was hard on the German side, who missed several good first-half chances, the best of which saw Niklas Füllkrug hit the post from close range. And the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 has officially started on Sunday with the opening match between USA and Canada at the Grand Prairie Stadium. This is the first ever major tournament to be staged in the United States, marking the beginning of a month-long festival of the fastest and most explosive form of the sport. Also, West Indies will face Papua New Guinea later in the day. Meanwhile, Team India are scheduled to open their campaign on June 5, taking on Ireland in New York. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.